Hi, I'm Margaret Fox, editor here at Stratfor, and joining me today is our Vice President of Intelligence, Fred Burton, and we're going to be talking about the strange and somewhat perplexing death of a Palestinian national in a Palestinian embassy in Bulgaria last month. So Fred, this case sort of involves three different entities: the Israelis, who wanted this Palestinian extradited from Bulgaria, the Bulgarian authorities, and the Palestinians. How do you even begin? This guy showed up dead on the back lawn of an embassy where he was hiding. What would be your first step in trying to resolve this murder?
These kinds of cases are clear as mud at times when you start to try putting these things together. But what you try to do in a complex case like this at a diplomatic facility is begin with the surveillance footage of video that would have been taken or someone should have been shooting outside the Palestinian consulate there in Sofia. For example, I'm sure the Bulgarians are running videotape on the perimeter, and you start looking at timestamps as to who came in and out of the embassy. And then you also try to do a inventory of personnel that were in the facility on that given day. But that takes a high degree of cooperation
with the Bulgarian authorities,
with
right?
the Bulgarian authorities, as well as with the Palestinian authorities, who may or may not want to present their diplomats to you to be interviewed. So there's always a high degree of politics as well as horse trading as to who you're going to talk to and what they're going to say.
Sure. So taking a step back, this man was in Bulgaria, but he was Palestinian. When did he make his way there? What was he doing there? Why did he flee Israel?
Well, he was one of three suspects that was associated with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, who in 1986 had stabbed an Israeli and had fled and gone to Bulgaria and had escaped the pursuit of the Bulgarian authorities by hiding out inside the Palestinian mission.
Why would they go after him now if it was indeed the Israelis who conducted the assassination?
Well, this is what the Israelis do. They do hunt down those persons that are responsible for killing Israelis, and this is what they've always done. You can go back to the Munich massacre,
right,
and
the Olympics,
and as well as several other targeted assassinations where they hunt down those persons responsible for killing Israelis, and they do that for a multitude of reasons.
As a deterrent, probably?
They do believe it's part of a deterrence aspect. They're also looking at it from the standpoint of disruption of additional attacks. And I have to say there's also a vengeance aspect here, meaning you're not going to get away with his killing Israelis around the world, and the Israelis are going to hunt you down for that, provided they were actually the actors engaged in this attack.
In your piece published this past weekend on Stratfor's website, you mentioned the death of a top Israeli spy, codename Angel. Could you talk a little bit more about that case and whether or not it relates to this one?
Well, that's a fascinating case. Marwan, codenamed the Angel, was either one of the greatest spies in the history of the Israeli Mossad, or he was actually working for the Egyptians or working for both. He mysteriously fell to his death off a balcony in London. And so when you start looking at these kinds of complex cases and you put this murder inside a diplomatic facility, that's where it's different than an average homicide, because with the crime actually taking place not on the streets of London like what happened to the Angel, this crime in Bulgaria took place inside a diplomatic mission. So with that comes a whole multitude of factors. There's the whole diplomatic immunity aspect. There's access to the facility. The cops just can't go in and conduct thorough crime scene searches.
Sure. Because otherwise, as you're saying, it should be quite easy, right? You see who went into the embassy at what time, who came out.
Right.
You kind of pinpoint when it happened, but you do have all these complications. What
you do whenever you have that, because of the venue, you have the location that has diplomatic immunity, and the diplomats that are accredited there. They really don't have to cooperate. It's the same issue that confronts the FBI and the State Department inside the United States when diplomats wreck cars or engaged in criminal activity. And it's afforded diplomatic protection and diplomatic immunity for personnel around the world so they can do their job. So when you have a crime like this that takes place inside a diplomatic facility, the police have to be invited in. You have to get the cooperation from that host nation state. And that territory is technically viewed as land or sovereign rights for that respective nation.
Right. So it basically adds a whole host of complications. It
does. And I can tell you from just interfacing with diplomats and investigating crimes affecting diplomats over the years, you just don't get the cooperation that you would if this happened on the streets of Sofia or London or Austin, Texas, meaning the police just can't seal the street and conduct a adequate or thorough crime scene investigation.
Is it possible that the difficulties that we're presented with because he was killed, because this man was killed in an embassy, could be one of the reasons that whoever killed him chose to kill him there? You know, like why go to the trouble, right, of getting into a secure embassy and taking out your target there as opposed to on the streets of Sofia, Bulgaria?
Well, the truth is always stranger than fiction at times, and in some cases you can't make these kinds of scenarios up. But you raise a very fascinating point to me, because when you look at it from just a pure suspect perspective, you've got a whole range of different actors, and you do have a pretty good audit trail based on my experience as to who was inside that diplomatic mission on any given day, or who could have potentially granted access or facilitated access. And then you start thinking about this with nation-state involvement. Let's say for the sake of argument that you're talking about the Israeli Mossad, you do have a technical capability of an intelligence service being able to black bag or surreptitiously enter into the facility without being caught. So with that is a whole range of different kind of aspects that probably are tying the hands of the poor homicide investigator
who really just wants to solve the case,
exactly,
right? And keeps running into walls.
Exactly. This is not a routine murder, but none of these kinds of murders are. It's been my experience. You'll get stonewalled. You'll get witnesses that won't appear. You won't get information back, or you want to interview everybody that was inside that diplomatic mission on that given day. And in essence, they won't give those persons to you to be able to ask questions of.
Right. Is your thought that this case probably will not be resolved in the way that a homicide usually would be?
I don't think so. I think that when you look at this kind of case based on the actor that was involved, the personalities that were hunting for him, the fact that it took place inside of a diplomatic mission, I think the likelihood of a person actually ever being brought to justice for this is slim to none.
Right, and it has been now almost a month, and there has been very little, very few details coming out of this case. So thank you so much, Fred, for sharing some of your insights on this.
Thank you, Margaret.
Very complex case. And thank you for watching. Please do visit our website for more on this and other topics.